So, how does easy for me to say, how does sprint recruiting apply agile methodology to the recruiting process, and what advantages does this approach offer? So, let's break that down.
All right, so 2017, I was thinking about getting out of recruiting because I was just sick of it. I was a recruiting leader, but I felt more like a daycare manager, dealing with the manager complaining about recruiters complaining about the managers. So coming out of that class, I was like, all right, there's something here. I realized that there were four dysfunctions in recruiting. You have everything's a priority, which means nothing's a priority. So that's again that yes, no version. There was no drumbeat in recruiting for us to stop and go, okay, what's working, what's not. We just continued to proliferate this insanity that we're doing, thinking that something's going to change one day. There was no accountability. I already alluded to that before. Everything was a recruiter's fault, and we know this is, you have hiring partners. If something's not working, it's because of the partnership. We got to figure that out. And then the last is that the feedback loop was non-existent. You know, um, so once we kind of identified these are four overall pillars that every other little thing that goes wrong in recruiting can probably fit in one of those four in some variation or form. So we came up with four principles to counterbalance that. So I don't care if you have 400 or 4,000 jobs. The goal of sprint recruiting is to acknowledge that we are limited on focus, we are limited on time, and we are limited on resources. So the whole premise of this was one, how do I address these dysfunctions? And two, acknowledge and leverage the limitations that I have. So the first one is everything's a priority, which means nothing's a priority, right? The second one, kind of getting into how do we get this done? I wanted to take all of the jobs and squeeze them through the funnel in a step-by-step process. And that's exactly what these four principles do. So the first one is the sprint creates efficiency. So we're putting bookends. We're saying over the next 2 weeks, or there's some clients that do 1 week because they do high volume. It makes more sense for them. I like 2 weeks. It's a good, easy, manageable period of time. So over the next 2 weeks, client, these 4,000 jobs, and I've got, 100 recruiters, these 4,000, how many are absolutely critical that we get filled in the next 2 weeks? So they're already going to shrink that down. And I'm going to make them go one step further and say, all right, out of this 400, I'm going to give you X number of points or a budget, and I want you to assign a point value. And we're going to work those in order.